Voices drift on winds untamed, words like spells that can't be named. Close your eyes and feel the sound. Journey where no bounds are found. Open doors inside your mind. Leave the ordinary far behind. Colors swirl and stars align. In the meta mysteries you'll find.
Welcome to Meta Mysteries, where you don't know what you don't know. My name's Jonathan.
I'm Sean.
And today we got a doozy for you. This is going to be such an exciting type of episode today. And I think probably not exactly one of a kind, because you hear so many wild experiences, wild personal experiences that people have, especially whenever they're kids. You know, we had just got done talking to Marbella a couple weeks ago, and she was talking about her experience whenever she was a kid, and she went over to this woman's house, and Ouija board was being played, and all that crazy shit, right? We are carrying on the crazy train, and today we're talking to Dallas Spitfire. What it do,
That's
homie?
right. Oh, man, I'm doing great. I am happy to be here.
Hell yeah,
we're happy
man.
to have you, dude. These are some of my favorite episodes, is because, you know, everybody, like Jonathan said, we all have these different experiences, and, you know, I'm only one individual, so I can only have so many experiences, and Jonathan, the same thing, you know, so it's cool to hear from other people like yourself, you know, tell us your story. So really looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, man.
Right.
So where do we begin with this? Let's go.
Well, the earth cooled, and
Too far back.
It's a little far. Going back, here's my first experience that was ultra bizarre, and I'm not sure how to explain it other than just explain the experience and let people take it how they want to. So when I was about 6 years old, my dad had this friend named Mark, and Mark had a whole family. We went over to his house. They used to hang out all the time. They were long time best friends, and we'd go over to their house all the time. One day we go over there, and Mark has a wife, two girls, and a son. The daughters were probably 15, 16, somewhere in there. The son was only a couple years older than me. I was 6 at the time, and he would have been 7, 8, somewhere in there. Anyway, we go over there. I go into his room, and we're playing Double Dragon. He has to go to the bathroom or go get a drink of water. I'm not sure what the situation was, but in either case, game's on pause. I pull out this crate. In this crate, there's a bunch of Legos and stuff. So I'm like, cool, start messing with those. And as I'm sitting down there, I have my back to his bed, right? And, you know, I'm slumped over, bent over like this, and I get this, all of a sudden, this weird, paralyzing fear. Like, it felt like it was the atmosphere itself, not an internal fear, but a fear outside of me. It's very hard to describe, but so I have this feeling, the feeling of something is watching you. You know how that goes. So I turn around slow, and on this bed is this being that looks like Medusa or a Gorgon or a Naga, right? Like the bottom half a snake, the top half was a woman, and it was doing this thing where its arms were waving like a Hindu goddess. The whole thing was blue. Bottom half was scaly, top half was smooth. No snakes or hair. In fact, I don't even think it had hair. In fact, that's another weird part about this, is I can't even really remember its face. It's like I blocked out its face or something like that.
Was it something like this? Like the bottom, you said the bottom part was kind of like a snake, but the top half was almost like just like a regular woman?
Right. But it was blue.
All right. Hell yeah.
And around it, it looked like a portal, or like a rainbow colored, like a dark rainbow. That's another hard thing to describe. That was just like shimmering and waving around it. Yeah,
Did it have multiple arms like this one?
It looked like it did, but it could have been like tracers. You know what I mean? Like moving so fast that it looked like it had multiple arms. I'm not sure.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, I feel like we got a pretty good image of what you're trying to talk about there. Yeah. All right. That would be pretty fucking trippy to just see manifest in the room.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing was, as I was like looking at it, I was just like paralyzed. I could not break the gaze with this thing. And I mean, it had me freaked out. And then finally, out of nowhere, I'm like, okay, bam. I jump up and I run out the room. I run into the living room where Mark and my dad and, their wives were talking. And I tell them what happened. I'm all freaked out and stuff. And rather than, getting any questions or like, what's going on here? Immediately, Mark snaps to, jumps up and goes, girls, and runs upstairs.
Wow.
So let me describe these two girls. They look like they come from the scene of The Craft, right? The movie, The Craft.
Mm-hmm.
Typical 90s goth. But yeah, apparently they were into some crazy shit. And
how old were the girls, did you say?
Right around 15, 16, I would assume. I mean, I was only 6 at the time.
Oh, okay.
They could have been older, they could have been a little younger, but
around the age where you're doing like Bloody Mary in the mirror.
Yeah, probably.
Gotcha. Okay.
But if you could have seen these chicks, I doubt they were just doing Bloody Mary. You know what I mean? Like they just had kind of an aura about them, and they were real quiet, kept to themselves, and it was a whole weird situation. To the extent that after all was said and done, my dad was like, okay, we're getting the fuck out of here. And we pack up and leave. And we never went back. And this was a long time friend of my dad's. So
it seems like the dad was pretty well aware that his kids were delving into like witchcraft and magic and stuff.
Yes, and it made us wonder if the rest of them were. You know what I mean? Anyway, the point was these girls, their bedroom was directly above the bedroom that I was in below. And whatever they were doing up there, like he had to have known. They were up to something, because it almost seems like this is probably not the first time this has happened. Type of situation.
Yeah, dude. Wow.
Yeah.
So you think that it's possible that even the dad was practicing with them,
or at least aware that they were, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That kind of reminds me. Do you know who Kevin Gates is? The rapper. He's out of Baton Rouge. But anyway, he has like, a bunch of awesome songs that I grew up with in high school and shit like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, he was on like a Zoom chat or something like that. And he was like in his bedroom and he was being interviewed for something. And, his daughter, I think, was just laying there on the bed with him. And the daughter started saying, "Oh yeah, are you gonna tell them about the magic or the witchcraft that we're doing?"
Wow.
And
that was him.
Kevin Gates was like, "Shh, no."
Right.
And so people are absolutely doing it with their kids. I mean, you could, maybe you could guess that it's. I think that a lot of people would probably think that it's just like higher level people like that, like, people within the music industry. Everybody talks about how the music industry in Hollywood is like satanic and gets into all the witchcraft and stuff like that, which I actually believe. Some people think that that's just like something that you say, and I'm like, no, they're absolutely doing it. You can see it through a lot of symbolism. You can see it through a lot of the words that they use. Just watch a music video. I mean, say less, like it's all throughout there. So it almost seems like a evocation for every single music video or like halftime show during the Super Bowl, stuff like that. So it's really going on, and it absolutely is a real thing. They wouldn't just do it for the show. and
Right.
they're absolutely getting results. And you know, we've done kind of like softcore magic over here, and
Softcore.
yeah,
Like it.
it's not the super dark shit. Like I'm not gonna be doing blood magic anytime soon, but we've done it.
Just a lot
and
of facial expressions.
yeah,
Really.
just but and it's worked, you know, like so it's absolutely a real thing. And but here's the thing about magic and witchcraft and all that kind of stuff. The way that the movies and TV shows portray it, it's not that way. So whenever people start diving into magic and witchcraft, it's not what they were led to believe that it was, and that's why they call it fake or it's not real. Oh, what are you, Matilda now? You're just going to start levitating up. I'm like, bro, it's not like that. It's a different way. It's and it has to do with you connecting your spirit to it. You can't be an unspiritual person practicing witchcraft and magic. It's not it won't work. You know, so yeah, it's some real shit, man. So anyway, sorry. Let's continue on with the story.
Oh no, I'm actually glad that you brought that up because this has led to a lifelong pursuit of knowledge because I mean, I had no frame of reference to have ever seen anything like this as a kid. You know what I mean? Like I was an innocent little kid. I mean, we were playing Double Dragon. That's about the most devious at that point I had ever seen anything, you know.
What
But
is that, a Super Nintendo game or?
That's a regular Nintendo, but
Yeah.
I'm sure they was on Super Nintendo as well. But
Yeah, I'm 40, so my first console was an
NES.
NES. Yeah.
hell yeah.
Now, when it comes to magic, like I said, this has led to a lifelong pursuit. So later in life, I did study quite a bit. I've never been really a big practitioner. We'll get into that later, but excuse me. It does make me wonder so many things about how reality itself works. And you know, like you're talking about how magic has to connect to the spirit and all this. And I wonder if it's not that this thing was manifested or summoned, it's just that the veil was lifted enough to see it.
Yeah, whenever you start evoking stuff like that and you're getting yourself into and that's the thing, you have to put yourself into like a trance state. And that's why they say like candle magic is so powerful, or you know, you don't want to do a spell or anything like that before you do a meditation. You want to do a meditation to get yourself into that type of mindset so that the veil becomes a lot more malleable, because you understand, you know, within that meditation anything's possible because it's just you and your imagination and your energy and your spirit. Like that's the only thing that exists in there. Like non-existence doesn't exist in there. Well, non-existence doesn't exist anywhere anyway. But you know, it's like anything is possible in there. So whenever you get out of that meditation or you get out of that the staring into the candle flame or something like that, it's almost like it allows for the magic to happen a little bit easier because you've now convinced your mind that it is at least more possible. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're very much more so connected to it, whatever that is.
Right.
Which is interesting that you weren't involved in this, whatever it was that they were doing in evocation or whatever it was, but yet something manifested and you were able to observe it, you know? And I was going to ask you like, well, you know, what state of mind were you in during this time? But you're sitting there playing a video game. You're 6 years old. I'm sure everything was just perfect, you know, at that time. And then all of a sudden this outside thing just comes in.
Well,
you know?
And to be fair, you said you were 6, right? So you're 6 years old. Your brain isn't even fully constructed yet, and they say up until about 7, 8. Some people say 9 years old. You know, you're in that theta trance state automatically. That's why little kids are able to learn at such a fast and rapid pace, because they haven't built, you know, the brick and mortar of this reality that the rest of us, you know, look at it as.
The little ego protectors, if you will.
Right. So whenever the little kids are hearing something under their bed or in their closet or something like that, they're almost manifesting it themselves based upon their own emotional attachment to it. So if you're hearing something, you know, like that, it's going to scare a little kid. Well, that fear is ultimately, I believe, is what, I don't want to say is what manifests it, but maybe that is what, you know, kind of thins the veil the most, you know, especially with a little kid.
Yeah. Yeah. But like I said at the beginning of it, what was weird was I had no reason to be fearful.
You just felt it.
Yeah, it's like the room went
Mhm.
cold, and
Right.
then it just like this ominous feeling. It was so bizarre. To your point, when it comes to, the youth and stuff, up to 6 years old, I'm curious, have you ever seen there's this documentary about this woman, I think she's in like Sweden or Norway or somewhere like a Scandinavian country, and she has a school where she'll take kids up to 7 years old and teach them how to see blindfolded.
Yes.
Yeah, that is
That's
so
very
cool.
fascinating.
Yes. And I just think that all kids, up to a certain point, they have that capacity to do that, and it can just kick in randomly sometimes. I mean, I've had crazy stuff happen in meditation, and we'll get into that later.
I think
Right.
it's
But
actually like just the easiest for kids, but I mean, I actually believe that it's probably accessible to anybody. It's just a little bit
yeah, yeah,
harder the older you get. You know, it's kind of
yeah,
like aging out of Neverland.
Yeah.
You know?
Like you've already built up these things in your mind that tells you, "Oh, that's not possible." But when you're a kid, you have nothing telling you that anything is impossible, you know? And so the older you get, that's when it just gets harder and harder, man.
hmm
Which is
tell
interesting
me
too,
about it.
because they're closer to the source, or they're closer to the other side than we are. And
Yeah,
so just the fact that kids come in with that kind of ideology, I mean,
Mhm.
think about it like that. It's not that they don't know. It's just that they remember so much, even subconsciously, from the other side to where everything is possible. And then they're thrust into this reality where it's seemingly impossible, you know?
yeah, yeah. It steadily gets more impossible the more you go. But I don't think anything is impossible, really. Anyway, point being, so after we left this house, we get back to our home, and my dad asked me to draw a picture of what I saw. So I did, drew it out, and he took it. We said a prayer together, and he burned the thing. Never had a problem with anything related to that for a long time until something that we'll get into much further on, which is
Right.
it's a story, it's an experience that left me with damn near PTSD. I'll just put it like that.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Um,
All right. Well, I mean, hate to, dig up old bones and dig into the old closet full of skeletons, but let's go there, baby.
yeah. Okay. But before we get into that, so growing up, everything was pretty much normal. Every now and then like I remember seeing like a shadow person in this house that I was living at. That's a whole story in itself that I don't want to get into right now. But anyway, for the most part, not really experiencing anything. Oh, so I've got company coming through the door. If you
It's
would
all
take the
good.
back door, please. Anyway, so when I was early 20s, I got married, and I was married for about 7 years, and some people aren't meant for each other. That's fine. Well, what had happened was I kind of had a little minor petty grudge, not a big one, but I mean, she left me for a one-legged comic artist, so you're gonna have a little petty grudge.
Just a
Literally
little bit.
one leg. He only had one leg. Oh, wow.
Well, I think one leg was like pretty much bummed out, so uh, more or less, like it didn't work. Uh, so what happens is I start getting into like the greatest shape of my life. I'm like running like 12 miles Saturday and Sunday, six
Holy shit.
miles every day on the weekend or weekdays after I get off work. And, I'm doing all sorts of meditation. I'm really getting spiritual, like heavy, heavy. And I'm studying all this stuff. And what happens is I sit down one day, I just come home, I sit down at my desk, and I start to go into a meditation. Just watching the thoughts as they, come through and all that sort of stuff. As I was sitting there, all of a sudden it felt like a lightning bolt hit the crown of my head, and it went straight down the spine. Went Felt like it went through my feet, and then went right back up, and then I was boom. I was out of here. It was like my entire consciousness was off this planet.
Left.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
What it was like was if you could imagine your perception having eyes all across your body and just being able to see all around at once, around me was like a kaleidoscope, like this spherical kaleidoscope. And every little what do you call fragment it contained a memory. And I was analyzing all of this at once. And I later come to find that that's like what they call a life review.
Right.
Because as I am watching this, I am seeing every single memory, every interaction. I am feeling horrible for every bullshit thing I've ever done. And I can feel what the other person was feeling when I
Right.
wronged them.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, that is only an overlay because as I am like flying, there's like this light at the end of the tunnel, that everybody describes. And there's this like these columns, like they look like Roman Colosseum type columns. And on these, man, I shit you not, I used to not think that angels were like these things that had wings and all this, but on these columns were these things that looked like angels with big ass, I mean, they were huge and they had big ass wings and they were all like standing like at the ready. And as I'm approaching this light, I can hear this thundering, booming voice that sounded like my own,
Mm-hmm.
but just much more commanding. And it's telling me, here's where you fucked up. Here's where you fucked up. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to do to get your life back on track. And this is what you need to stop. That sort of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
As I am approaching this light, it's getting bigger and bigger. And I suddenly have this feeling that if I bust through this light, I'm not coming back.
Was it a little something like this right here? Like, were they like statue kind of looking things?
Yeah,
or were they
statuesque?
Okay.
Statuesque.
That kind of reminds me of you ever seen that show called Doctor Who?
A little bit. You talking about the weeping angels?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of looks like that a little bit.
Kind of like that. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I get this feeling that if I continue on, I'm not going to come back. And it made me wonder, like much later in life, after the experience was over, of course, but it made me wonder much later on if sometimes you have cases where people just die spontaneously for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
If they just happen to hit that wavelength, that certain wavelength that made them just propel out and do the thing.
Right.
Dude, that's funny that you bring that up. I've been thinking about that a little bit lately, because it is strange how it's like, dude, once you hit your 60s, it could be any day. Like literally, like
any day.
It could be any fucking day after that because people seemingly are even the super healthy people, maybe they're going to the gym regularly, they're eating clean and all that kind of stuff. Maybe they even have like good relationships with everybody, very loved and all that kind of stuff. And then just bang out of nowhere. And it makes you wonder, just like you said, is there some kind of wavelength that they get connected to that ultimately just sends them through a portal somewhere else? And that's the thing.
Their consciousness right out, huh?
Yeah. And maybe they do an autopsy afterward and find out that you have a heart attack or you had a stroke or, you know what I mean? Like something like that. But maybe the heart attack or the stroke isn't what happened, that it is what happened, but that's like the secondary reason,
Right.
Like, I don't know.
Right,
I hate thinking about that shit. It just it drives me crazy though.
Once you're 60, it's any day.
Start the timer.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it is a curious thing because as you're talking about that, it makes me think of well, if the consciousness leaves the body, it's going to shut down anyway, and it's going to react in some sort of way.
Right.
And not only that, then you have these cases where somebody just like passes away peacefully in their sleep and they just say, oh, it's a natural death. We don't know what fuck happened, but
Right.
Yeah, dude. And old people are always dying of natural causes. I'm like,
yeah.
Natural? Like, what's natural? Like, how do you describe death as, I mean, I know that we're all going to stumble across death at some point in our life, but like, I don't know. Like, it's just a weird thing to label it as a
I feel
natural
like that would
causes.
be the way to go, though. You know what I mean? Just like, all right, good night, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow, and then not even know that you were that sick.
Oh,
you
it's
know?
definitely
It's
the
just
ideal
gone.
way for sure
Oh,
to go in
yeah.
your sleep like that.
Yeah, you definitely don't want a GMO death.
Yeah, right. So anyway, you're getting shot through the tunnel. You see the light at the end of the tunnel. These and you're having, is it like conversations with the angels?
No, when they talk about like the higher self, that's what it felt like to me. Like this booming voice that was coming through felt like that.
Like it was
And
you.
afterward, I just um I felt my whole life change, my trajectory in life. Um, I started getting even more spiritual, more inquisitive, and it uh it kind of culminated into okay, so after I was married for 7 years, I took a long break for like 5 years. I didn't date. I just worked on myself, stacking money, getting ripped. Then I start feeling like, okay, you know what? Maybe I'll put myself out there, and I start dating around again. And I go to this joint called Bunny's Onion Burgers, and there's this waitress there that I encounter, and get to talking to her, start hitting it off, start dating her. Uh, she seemed normal at first, as normal as you can label anyone.
Right.
They all seem normal at
Um,
first.
yeah. Uh, we bonded over playing like the Zelda games and talking conspiracies and stuff, and it was a good time. Great at first. So this chick had 4 kids, and we're dating for 6 months or so, and she tells me that the person that she's living with is stalking on her kids.
Ooh,
And at the time, I'm living in a 4-bedroom house. I'm making good money. I've been working for a local city government for
you're ripped.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
I'm doing good.
shit's good. Yeah.
But like I said, 4-bedroom house, and this chick is like, yeah, he's stalking my kids and creeping on them and watching them in their bedrooms and all this and that. I'm like, and you don't have any other relatives here? And she's like, no, my whole family lives up in Maine. I'm like, that sucks. So one thing leads to another. She talks me into letting her move in. And for a while, the arrangement was great. She was working for the first couple weeks, and then COVID happens. She loses her job. And or no, this was actually before COVID. I can't remember why she lost her job. That was somebody else. Anyway, point is she talks me into letting her move in, and things were great for a little while. She would, cook and clean and stuff like that, and I'm out working. Typical, what should be a kind of a typical arrangement, if you got to bring value. Slowly but surely, all that starts going to the wayside, and her personality starts to shift. And I start noticing she does this thing where she slips into these other kind of personalities. Like
Mm.
she would go from acting one way to talking like uh she comes from the streets of Detroit or something like that. And
Oh, okay.
then she would flip around on another end, like we'd be talking. I would make a joke about Bill Gates or whatever, and at first she would laugh at it, but then she would get to the point where she was like, well, that man's done a lot to save so many lives and this and that. I'm like, that's a weird flip.
Sorry, I just let my conspiracy brain out. Sorry. Go ahead. Fuck that guy.
So yeah, long story short, after 6 months, she finds out that if she is a resident in my house for 6 months, it's considered common law marriage or whatever
Mm.
by Oklahoma law, which is where I live, by the way. And so she even tells me this. as we start getting in more and more arguments, you know, increasingly over time, she's like, well, you can't do anything about it. And I'm like, what the fuck? It gets so bad. She starts doing these weird little gaslighting things where she's like, I come home every day, I hang my keys next to the door, I put my wallet on the desk, right? The keys start moving, the wallet starts moving, little stuff around the house starts moving. She starts, she would say, I would do something, and then she would say, I didn't do it, and vice versa.
Mhm.
And I'm like, are we living in the same reality? What's going on here?
Right.
It was so bizarre. And she got to the point where she was abusive as fuck to these kids too. At one point, she does this thing where she starts throwing a tantrum. The kids were all around, and she just starts throwing stuff on the floor, and she's like, look, this is what you're doing. This is why we can't have nice things, this sort of stuff. And I'm like, bitch, what are you doing? And then she goes, I hate you. She tells her kids, I hate you.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And okay, so I'm like, I gotta get her out. I gotta figure out something. So I'm working on. But the other thing was, this is in the middle of winter. I can't just kick her out on the street, you know, because of the kids. Because
Right.
you know, and then if I were to get a hold of like CPS or something, you didn't never know. Like, it's a devil you know type of situation. You don't know what would happen with them otherwise. I was in a really
Shitty
tough spot.
situation. Yeah.
Yeah. So
It almost makes you wonder if the person she was living with before, she probably it makes you wonder if like she drove him to that.
yes,
In a way.
what she we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Um, so all this culminates. One night I come home, or one afternoon I come home, and she comes at me with a pair of scissors and tries to stab me in the neck, and I block and
Oh,
you know knock that shit out. And after I knocked him out of her hand, she tried to act like I was hitting her, and right.
Oh God.
And you know, she calls her friend up, and she's on the phone with her friend, just like going ape shit and talking about all this abuse that I'm putting her through. And I'm like, what is going on? Oh my God. So eventually I managed to get that situation calmed down. The next night, she I had this feeling, something told me to move my pistol, because I always kept it in a certain place. And something told me to move my pistol, and I did. Later that evening, we get into this big spat. I mean, it is horrendous. She's going on for hours. This woman would scream for hours. So I moved my pistol. We get into it. Eventually, she runs over to the desk to pull the drawer open that my pistol was in, that she knew would have been in there and otherwise. And then when she realized that it wasn't there, she looks over at me like, oh shit.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you were able to see her intention. She showed her hand, and
Yes.
that's weird that you would get like that, something to tell you to move it like that, which, I mean, hey,
Intuition, man.
maybe it was your homeboys, the statue angels or something.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It's just intuition. Intuition. I've experienced so many synchronicities, which has actually led me to this point in life, because man, I can't tell you how many times I'll be listening to you guys, or the Cult of Conspiracy, or Nephilim Death Squad, or Sam shows, and little things throughout the day are lining up exactly with what is being said in the podcast. Like, I could be listening to somebody say, "Oh, something about a tuna can," and then I watch a tuna can truck drive by. You know, stuff like that.
Dude, yeah, synchronicity. It especially pops up for this show. We get like a lot of people that reach out and they're like, I don't know when you shot this or when you recorded it, but literally I feel like it's happening in real time.
Mhm.
And that's what we always try and say, especially like for the meditations, because there's only one day a week that we do the live shows, and the people that are signed up on Patreon can join us for the live meditations and stuff like that. But we always preface it with the saying of like, look, I know that this is going on right now, but time is an illusion anyway. So if you're to meditate right here, right now, you're essentially meditating with us in real time if you just put yourself in that mindset, because that's really what's going on. Like, it's just how we perceive time. We see it as this continuous, ever going on, there's a yesterday, there's a tomorrow, but that's just the way our brain interprets the information that we're given. We're so limited. And, we had just had that conversation about DMT and the whole DMTX thing. And that proved it. They were able to essentially hack the brain. Whenever you're on that drip of DMT for 60 minutes, it shows that like literally 90% of your brain is firing up, dude. Like 90%, as opposed to the 5 or 10% that we are usually using on a daily basis. So imagine that, whenever you are, under the influence, I don't even like saying under the influence. You're
sounds bad, right?
Yeah, it sounds bad because it's not really what it is. It's not fucking, coke
You're
or
opened
heroin
up,
or
dude.
something. You know what I
You're
mean? Like,
opened up.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
natural to the body anyway. So.
It's naturally formed in the body, which we found out DMT it secretes from the pineal gland, but it also secretes from 2 other places. It's found in your lungs, and the other place is your cerebrospinal fluid, which makes a lot of sense if you think about it, right? So like, it could be your third eye chakra or your pineal gland. You got your lungs, or maybe that's, close to your heart chakra, right? And then your spinal fluid, that's the Kundalini right there, dude.
Yeah,
That's the fucking serpent awakening. And so, that Christos that the Greeks and all that stuff used to talk about, allowing your Christos or your what was it called? Like some kind of fluid that would rise up your spine if you don't squander it and stuff like that. Then, I mean, it's real shit, like it's all talking about DMT.
I'm wondering if that's what he experienced when he had that life review, if it was like some sort of Kundalini awakening,
Could have been. I mean, you're talking to fucking Medusa. That's a snake if there ever was one. The Kundalini,
Yeah, it's a very bizarre set of circumstances that led to this. But getting back into it, after she tried to pull for the pistol, I was like, okay, this has gone too far. I called my sister up and I'm like, I need help getting her out, and I'm not sure how to do it, but we got to get this house cleaned up so I can get to packing. The next morning, or no, that night, I'm laying there with her, and she tells me it's like all this crazy shit. Like I'm telling you, the way she shifted. She started as one person and became another person. From when I met her to when I kicked her out. When she was laying there, she goes, it's almost like her inner child came out or something. And she goes, "You should kill me."
Oh.
And I go, "What?" And she repeats it. And I go, "No." And I go, "It's going to be okay." I try to, and later on, or a little bit later, she goes, "I'm going to kill you in your sleep."
Oh, fuck.
And I was like,
I was
"Okay."
like, you got to go.
Yeah, you got to go.
You got to go now.
Yeah.
Sketchy, dude.
The next day, a whole series of events happens. My mind was so jumbled during this time period because like the days started all blending together. She would keep me up like late at night, like just screaming. So this whole time period is kind of left my brain like Swiss cheese for a while. I'll put it like that. That morning, she starts going off on my sister who had came over and she was helping clean. She was like, "Don't touch my stuff." I go, "Okay." So I call up my buddy TJ and I said, "Man, you need to come over and witness this. I got to get her out like right now, right now, right now." So he comes over, he sits in a chair and he puts a pistol in his pocket and he just sits there and watches as I gather all her shit and get them the fuck out. Fortunately, at this time, I had got a hold of one of her ex-husbands who she also tried to kill. And I said, dude, I'm sorry I didn't pay more attention to you. But you've got a shed in your backyard and I know it's empty, so all her shit's going in there. You know, I'm doing this for the kids' sake. Otherwise, I would probably have gotten police involved or something because yeah, I did record some sessions where she was screaming and just going off. And in fact, later on, after I'd gotten all her shit off or all her shit out, I was on Facebook and she starts calling me a pedophile and all this other shit. And I'm like, oh, that's what she did to the other dude. I'm like, oh, it all starts clicking together. And then I'm starting to figure out, oh, anyway, she does that. So I drop a little clip, a sound bit of when she was going off. And, you know, she was tagging all these people. And, you know, they were all up in arms against me. And I was like the villain for a minute. And then once I dropped that sound clip, uh, all her friends turned against her all at once because they were like, we didn't know you was like this.
Oh, yeah. She was probably playing the whole poor me card and that whole thing, right?
Right.
Yeah, they always like to paint themselves as the innocent one. Not always, but the crazy ones, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, man, I'm sorry this is a dark episode, but...
Hey, dude, we got to go there. We need the context of it, as Jacob would like to say.
Right. After I'd kicked her out, as I was picking up the rest of her shit, she had been sitting there coloring in this coloring book, just coloring the shit out of it like a little meth head, just like going at it. And I was always wondering, like, what was she coloring on? Then I finally flip it open and it was Medusa. And she had just finished it. She had just finished it.
Wow.
Holy shit. What the fuck?
Yeah.
It's weird. And I just saw somebody with the Medusa tattoo like yesterday. And so it's weird that even came up tonight, dude. Fuck, dude, that's a trip.
The whole reason I even started talking about this in the first place was, or recently talking about this again in the first place, is because I caught one of Heidi Love's podcasts, Unfiltered Rise, and she was talking about, yeah, shout outs. She was talking about not a similar experience, but a Medusa story, a Medusa energy story. I'll put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's man, you know, that call it whatever you want. Maybe you know, some people would call Medusa like a demon type of energy or a djinn type of energy, but it is definitely an archetype at the bare minimum, right? Like Medusa is never really seen in a good light. And, you know, and we watch cartoons and movies and all that shit whenever we're little about Medusa and the snake hair and all that stuff. But, you know, it seems like that kind of character does exist, you know, and I think that a lot of these kind of archetypal deities or demigods or whatever, I feel like they definitely all exist as long as maybe they just have to be manifest in some kind of way in order for you to know that they exist. Maybe they're always there. You know, maybe it's just that we're blind to it unless it presents itself in some kind of way. So in your case, you had the Medusa kind of energy that popped up in the bedroom whenever you were little, and then you get, you know, crazy psycho lady that you're dating over here, and she's going absolutely apeshit. And the last thing you see that she does is coloring a Medusa. Like, so there's something to that. And I think that a lot of people probably experience that in many different ways, you know, like it's like Christ on a cracker kind of thing, you know, like people experience that kind of stuff. And it's like whatever they give their energy to. So maybe even subconsciously you were like, dude, this bitch is crazy. And maybe your definition of a crazy bitch dates all the way back to whenever you were 6 years old and you see fucking Medusa and it's giving you that subconscious fear that just carries throughout the rest of your life. And maybe you associated that. I don't know. That's weird how that would just manifest up like that. I don't believe in coincidences at all.
Yeah, that's a
Neither
trip.
do I.
Super strange.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that, I mean, I know all this sounds crazy. I know I sound like a lunatic. That's fine. but I have to be very candid when I speak, because if you're not speaking the truth, why even talk?
Yeah, dude.
For
No,
sure.
dude, you got to say what you got to say, man. You know, this is a real experience that you had. You know, it's
Yeah.
not fake. You're not lying. You know.
Well,
what do I stand to gain from this other than being ostracized from the many people who know my online experience, or what do you call my online presence, that I know in real life, you know?
Right. And that's the thing, like with a lot of stories like this, you know, you'll hear, especially a lot of people like in the spiritual genre, you know, we talk to a lot of people who are all like, everything is love and light, and everything that is dark, it just exists in the shadows, and as soon as you give it light, then it becomes like a light being. I'm like, maybe, but there absolutely exists like these kind of like fear deriving, soul sucking energy vampires that aren't looking at you that way. Like, they're absolutely out there. And unfortunately, you know, people fall on hard times. They get depressed, they get anxious. That fear then manifests itself in some kind of way. And those people, maybe they're, you know, consciously or even subconsciously looking for a way out of that fear, or at least a way to be able to transfer that in some kind of way, right? And so then you get, you know, dark magic and, you know, like evil kind of witchcraft, or, you know, Satanism and stuff like that. Like, see, those things absolutely exist. They've existed all throughout history. You know, like Mary Todd Lincoln, that was Abe Lincoln's wife. Dude, she was performing seances in the White House.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Nobody talks about that.
Nobody talks about that. Dude, Hillary Clinton was doing the same thing whenever Bill was in office.
Oh,
and
right.
so, like, literally holding like these weird ceremonial spiritual meetings within the White House, and people think, oh, well, it's just like something that crazies do. It's like, no, people all the way at the up at the top, they are absolutely doing it. It's like, you know, the old adage of millionaires don't practice astrology, but billionaires do, right?
It's the
like,
thing that they know that it's real. It's a real thing that's going on, and they're tapping into it because it works. Otherwise, why continue to do these practices? You know, especially people at the top like that.
There would be no results, you know, and so you only continue if there are some kind of results, you know. And I always talk about just that one time that we did the money spell show. Like, that's really what got me, you know, because I used to always think, oh, you know, here we are, we're just going to write something on a bay leaf and then stare into a candle and have some kind of evocation or whatever. And it's like, okay, it's a fun thing, you know, well, I don't think it's going to work or whatever, but, you know, we'll see. And then lo and behold, the next day I make the most money ever in one day in my life.
Right.
You know, it's like,
so what is that?
What the fuck is that?
Yeah, it's definitely not a coincidence.
Not a coincidence.
We're not
at
going
all.
there, man.
No.
Oh,
So there's definitely something to it. But just out of curiosity, you know, with that experience, whenever you saw that she was coloring that Medusa, what was your mindset?
Man, the day that morning that she came, she walked through the door like freaking out and stuff. And when she did, like, all her kids were there, and she came in, and it was like the room went cold, and it was kind of like that oppressive type of energy, but it wasn't. It was like her, you know, like when she came in with the thunder going, and it just felt like maybe that energy had attached to her, and it was trying to get to me, like it was trying to come back,
Right.
that sort of thing.
Shit.
I don't know. I don't know what I don't know.
That's right. Dude.
As a wise philosopher once said.
Shit, dude. That's a wild experience, though. That's crazy.
Yeah, man. Like I said, it left me with some degree of what I found out was PTSD later on. It made me study into these sorts of people, and, you know, the classic narcissist. But here's the other thing. As I am finding all these different all this paperwork, and like gathering it all together to, you know, send back her way, I find out that she was diagnosed psychopath. Like I said,
shocker.
She tried to kill her ex-husband, and she stabbed him in the neck with scissors. I found this out from her oldest son later on.
Oh, so the scissors were the weapon of choice then.
Yep.
Holy shit, dude.
Dude.
I'm glad you made it out of there, man. you know?
Me too. Yeah, and I worry that there's a lot of people probably living in that type of situation right now, and they're just hopeless. They can't find a way out.
Yeah, it seems like it. I actually kind of want to share a little something about Medusa just because we haven't really covered Medusa. And so I found this this little bitty. It's called pitchblackcraft.com. So I feel like we're going to get some answers because I was looking at, the other ones, and a lot of people that get into, especially like, what do they call them? Like baby witches and stuff like that. They just think, oh, it's cute. I'll play with Medusa and she's a powerful, divine, feminine goddess.
Energy.
You know what I mean? It's like, she's going to help me gain confidence or whatever the fuck. It's like, maybe you want to look a little bit deeper into that. But yeah, so this says, this is actually, I'm pretty sure this is a fucking satanic website because, it says it's twin of Lucifer 666 and Lucifera 325. So,
That seems fine.
they're not trying to hide it at all. This woman's name is literally Lucifera. Come on, bro.
Oh my, what is this?
I don't know how
You led us astray.
I don't know how I stumbled across this one. But it says the ethics of magic. It is best to ask Al Ghul. Oh, like Ra's al Ghul from Batman. To protect you from those who are unbalanced and unwise and are known for always starting fights with people who seek approval and want to dominate and end up cursing people. It's not a good idea to curse people by asking Al Ghul to assist you in evil spells because such malicious spells can backfire. Even if we think we have lots of protection and lots of experiences, curses can affect the smooth run of our lives. But of course, if somebody has wronged you and this has impacted your life in a huge way, then you have the right to ask Al Ghul to help you to restore justice. Oh, here we go. All right. So Medusa, it says Medusa, she steps in to protect you. I was afraid to do magic with Medusa because I had heard terrible things about her. But at last, I dared to summon Medusa and asked her in a very polite way, Mother Medusa, would you agree to protect me? I strongly suspect that I am under a manipulative spell cast on me by one person. I need you to open my eyes so I can liberate myself from the evil bewitchment. After a couple of days, Medusa opened my eyes to the fact that I was actually under a manipulative spell. The bewitchment was broken, and I took real-life action by chopping off all contacts. Oh.
Do you think...
Oh shit! There's a whole ritual too. All right, go ahead. Sorry, Sean.
No, I was just gonna say, like, do you think that, let's say, because I honestly believe that we all have kind of our own reality going. Like you said, people seeing Jesus on a cracker. In their reality that's the only truth. And so I wonder if you just don't believe in curses, does that protect you from even being cursed? Because in your reality bubble, that's not even a thing.
I think, and I've thought about this too, but I think that it'll manifest itself in a way that you're not going to know that it's a spell. You'll just look at it as a coincidence, let's say you're driving down the road and somebody casts a spell on you, right? Okay. They sick Medusa or Lucifer or name your Beelzebub or whatever, right? They sick that evil kind of demonic energy on you and it attacks you. And, and you're just driving around the road. You don't know that, these energies are after you, but all of a sudden, out of nowhere, your tire pops, and then it causes you to swerve into the median. And, and then you go home and you're like, my God, that sucked really bad. What, but you're not even really putting two and two together. Right? You're just like, oh, that's a coincidence. And so the people that, the people that don't believe in magic or witchcraft or spell work or anything like that, they're always going to look at it as a coincidence.
I think you're on one, dude.
Most people are of the NPC type mind that only happens in movies, but it's a real thing and it does manifest itself. It's just some people call it synchronicity, some people call it spell work, and others call it bad luck or coincidence. Right.
Right. I think you're on one, dude. I think you're right.
Somebody cursed you with Satan and you get T-boned by a Saturn.
Dude, yeah, right. Yeah. Like a Saturn view is just like, not today, bitch. But yeah, I kind of want to read this ritual. Let's just find out, bro. Let's just fucking find out.
Fuck around and find out.
Maybe I ought to leave.
Should I don't want to read it if it's gonna make you feel something.
It's fine.
Okay.
It's fine. I'm messing with you.
Okay. So you'll need a black candle coated with olive oil and crushed bay leaf and sage. Al Ghul is connected to Jupiter and to Saturn. Use the colors of Jupiter or Saturn. And a blue seal of the head of Al Ghul. And so this is the head of Al Ghul, this is the head of Al Ghul, the head of Medusa. See, I don't know too much about the evil ones. So is Al Ghul and Medusa the same thing, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, I have no idea.
So oils for protection, you would need patchouli, bergamot, and pine. The oils are applied to the seal of Al Ghul and to your pendant. And so then it says, a pendant, ask Al Ghul to protect you from the curses and manipulative spells. Place your pendant at the seal of Al Ghul and apply the oils both to the seal of Al Ghul and to your pendant. Raise power and place your palms on the seal and on your pendant, and then wear the pendant all the time and do regular spells with Al Ghul. Wow.
Okay.
That's now you know.
What a website.
The reason why I wanted to bring that up is just because I was curious about, what those little girls were doing. Like I don't think you're just gonna summon Medusa or Al Ghul or any of these kind of characters without going through the proper steps. Right. witchcraft, magic, all that stuff. It all has its proper steps, and we learned through reading The Magician with Philip Cooper. If you go into your temple and whatever you set out to do, it doesn't somehow manifest itself within days or a week of doing the spell, then you didn't do it correct enough. So there is particulars. There's a set of like rules that you have to go by if you're working, even if you just believe that it's just working with your higher self. Like it's like a rule list almost that you have to follow. And that's the thing about a lot of this kind of stuff is that like if you're the one that's trying to manifest something, if you like shortcut it,
Mm-hmm.
And so if it doesn't work, you're going to be like, oh, you know what? I should have spent a little bit more time. I knew that I should have did that last step and I didn't.
Right.
And so
you half-assed it instead of whole-assed it.
Right. And so that thing is ultimately your own self that is not allowing it to happen, I think.
Yeah. No, I think you're right, dude. I think you're right. And the whole aspect that I was thinking of as far as us having our own individual reality, like I think in a sense that's true. But when it comes to stuff like this and you're dealing with consciousness and the force or whatever you want to label it as, there is a shared aspect of that. I mean, there has to be. We've had Byron on and he's talking about all these types of things. And I'm sure that he's been able to do this for people that don't believe it either, and so, yeah, I don't know, dude. It's a weird world, man.
And not only that, but also it's good to keep in mind that these things, like you mentioned, the idea of the archetype and what all, Medusa obviously isn't the only Gorgon, but also there's these things called Nagas, which are very similar. And those exist within like Hinduism and Buddhism and like Jainism or whatever. So, I mean, I don't think what I saw was the Medusa, but I definitely saw something that was in that vein.
Right. I actually just pulled this up, and somebody asked the question: Was Medusa a Naga? So maybe we can dive into that a little bit, just because I'm super curious about this, dude. I mean, I believe what you're saying that you were experiencing this kind of shit. So let's figure out where the fuck it comes from.
And maybe Medusa was blue. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of the Hindu gods were blue.
That's true. Right.
I think all of them actually.
Yeah.
But it says, this is from enviroliteracy.org. So it's not exactly a witchcraft website. So we'll see historically how the story goes.
Curses.
So was Medusa a Naga? Unraveling mythological misconceptions. The straightforward answer is no, Medusa was not a Naga. Medusa is firmly rooted in Greek mythology as one of the three Gorgons, monstrous figures whose gaze could turn men to stone. Nagas, on the other hand, originate from Hindu, Buddhist, and is it Jain traditions?
I think so.
Predominantly found in South Asian mythology. While both share the common motif of serpentine characteristics, their origins, cultural context, and overall representation differ significantly. The confusion may arise from the shared snake element, but diving deeper into the lore reveals distinct entities. So understanding Medusa, well, you believe that it was probably more so Naga than Medusa, right?
Well, I mean, again, I don't think it was the Medusa, but it could have been either. I feel like because of the fear factor in it and being able to like just freeze me like in my tracks, that had a very Medusa-esque thing. And again, I think, well, I don't know what I think. Continue.
You were very much stuck in that situation for a good minute. You were trying to do what was right for the children, and not just kick them out, and so you were very much stuck in one place, not knowing really what you could do, and that was kind of the energy she gave you.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and that kind of way of looking at it, maybe you weren't stuck like a statue, like how Medusa stares at you and turns you into a statue, but stuck in reality, like not really having a way out. That's kind of symbolic in that sense.
Yeah, stuck in that situation. Yeah, dude.
Right. So, all right. So let's get into Medusa's origin and transformation. So Medusa's tale is one of tragedy and divine wrath. Initially, according to later Roman accounts, Medusa was a beautiful priestess of Athena dedicated to a life of celibacy. However, after being violated by Poseidon in Athena's temple, Athena punished Medusa by transforming her beautiful hair into a head of venomous snakes. This transformation not only made her terrifying to behold, but also imbued her with the power to turn anyone who looked at her into stone. The Gorgons, more than just Medusa, it says. So Medusa was just one of three Gorgons, the other two being Stheno and Uriel, who were immortal. So I was reading earlier, and this is what's crazy about this, okay? Just like the symbolism of your story. So Medusa there was three Gorgons. She was, she was one of the three, but the other two were like more Gorgonious, however that word goes, than she was. But they were sisters, right? So it was three sisters. And so here's Medusa and those two little girls that you were talking about at the beginning of the story, right? Maybe Medusa's the fucking third sister or something like that, right? So it says the Gorgons were monstrous figures, often depicted with snakes for hair, wings, and sharp teeth. While Medusa is the most famous, the other two played roles in various myths. The Gorgons' terrifying appearance and deadly gaze made them formidable figures in Greek mythology, feared by both mortals and gods. The symbolism of Medusa. So Medusa's image has evolved through the centuries with different interpretations highlighting various aspects of her story. Some see her as a symbol of female rage and victimhood. What's that sound like? Right?
Holy shit.
Transformed into a monster by the actions of men and the wrath of a goddess. Others view her as a cautionary tale about hubris and the dangers of divine retribution. Medusa's head, often depicted on shields and other objects, became a powerful apotropaic symbol meant to ward off evil, almost like an evil eye in a sense. Then you got exploring the Naga. So let's try and distinguish the difference here. The Naga were the serpents of South Asian lore. Nagas, unlike the monstrous Gorgons, are often depicted as semi-divine beings in Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. They are typically portrayed as having a human upper body and a serpent lower body. That's more in line. Though they can also shapeshift into fully human or fully serpentine forms. They are often associated with water, wealth, and protection, and are seen as guardians of treasures and sacred sites. So Nagas are deeply integrated into South Asian culture and belief systems. They are often worshipped for their protective qualities and their association with fertility and prosperity. Many temples and shrines are dedicated to Nagas, and rituals are performed to appease them and seek their blessings. The concept of the Nagaraja, the king of the Nagas, is also prevalent in various stories and traditions. The Nagas symbolize a range of concepts, including fertility, protection, wisdom, and transformation. Their association with water links them to life-giving forces, while their serpentine form represents the cyclical nature of life and death. In Buddhist traditions, Nagas are often seen as the protectors of the Dharma and are revered for their wisdom and compassion. Some Nagas, like Mukhalinda, even protected Buddha. Whoa, I didn't know that.
So this is more like the thing that Dallas saw when he was 6 years old. What you're talking about right now.
It seems like it, at least in appearance.
Almost like this thing was there to protect him whenever there was some shit going down, possibly. you know, even though he was scared, but it was only because she had, or it, I don't know, had this energy of just wisdom and I don't know what, you know, but he just felt intimidated naturally by it.
Or it could have been that was the little girl's protection. You know, because you think about it, he saw that, went down and told his dad, and his dad's like, let's get the fuck out of here. That's warding off evil, or at least in the minds, I don't know if it's warding off evil, so to say, but just warding off people from your territory kind of thing.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess you could take it really either way. Yeah,
I just think that's a trip, man, that you saw something, and it wasn't like physical. Was it like kind of see-through, this thing that you saw in the bedroom, or did it look like it was there?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, it very much looked like it was there. In fact, I wish I would have went back into the room. I was terrified of even going back into the room, but I wish I would have went back in to look at the bed and see if like there was an imprint. You know what I mean?
Right. So this thing would have had weight, like it looked like it was just
It
there
looked,
with you.
It looked like it did. Now I don't know. I don't know for sure. I mean, I didn't get up and touch the damn thing, so
right. Right.
I'm like, come here, baby.
That is something else, man.
Yeah, that is pretty damn wild. So yeah, it talks about it a lot in Buddhism from what I'm seeing. And what is this? Okay, so let me go ahead and share the screen one more again. Oh God, come on.
One more another time.
Yeah. Well, my screen just froze, so that's nice.
That damn website, dude, it got you. It got you.
How about it
Medusa froze your screen?
It froze my screen with all the snake heads, dude. That is wild.
Fuck.
My screen literally never does this. Here we go. Okay.
Medusa's coming through, dude.
Holy shit. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't be talking about this, but fuck it. We're gonna dive in. We're gonna dive in the deep end. So who are the Nagas? This is by the chencholing.org. Main seat of, I don't know what the fuck any of these words mean. So it says, in Buddhist tradition, Nagas are powerful yet complex beings with deep connections to the natural and spiritual worlds. They're often depicted as serpent-like beings with the upper body of a human and the lower body of a snake. They have beautiful human faces and are considered godlike and highly attractive. Do you remember her being godlike and, well, godlike for sure, but highly attractive?
Well, it definitely had titties. I can say that.
Hey.
He's like, I was 6.
Yeah.
It awakened something in me. No, like I mentioned before, I cannot remember its face. I know I saw it at the time, but it's like a blur. It's like Bigfoot just stepped in front of the damn thing.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm seeing, dude, look at this. So the Nagas have dual nature. So kind of like that, you know, you talked about how your girl was pretty chill for the first 6 months, right? And then she went full on psycho. Well, it says, however, Nagas are not just helpful guardians, but also known for their unpredictable temper. They can be easily angered by the pollution or disturbance of their natural habitat, leading them to retaliate with curses that cause diseases like skin ailments or even natural disasters like floods and storms. Because of this, Buddhists are taught to show respect in such environments and refrain from actions that will destroy or pollute the environment. Holy fuck. So you can, the benefits of offering to the Nagas. Oh, we're getting into offerings now. Let's go. So you can request protection and support. You can promote environmental harmony. You can cultivate virtues and alleviate the suffering of Nagas. What is that? So the suffering of Nagas are both mental and physical. They suffer from emotional torments of their jealousy and anger towards other beings. This causes them to be stuck in their present state despite having faith and merits. Nagas suffer from being burned daily by hot sand and preyed on by other beings. They are all thus perpetually fearful of something hostile appearing and suffer unbearable distress.
Wow.
Whoa. Wow. All right. Well, you know what? Maybe you just don't fuck with the Nagas then. Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Just leave it alone, dude. Just leave it alone.
Just leave that thing over there.
Yeah. Remember how I was saying, you know, how to invoke? Just maybe don't do that.
Just chill out. You know what I mean? So Dallas, where are you at now spiritually? And you said that it kind of gave you somewhat of a PTSD type of
Yeah,
thing. And so,
maybe.
how are you going about all that?
Well, I'm actually much better now. It was just like for about a year there. Like I said, that had me like Swiss cheese. I always had this constant pressure up in my forehead because I felt like I was always in fight mode. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like because from the moment I would wake up every morning, there would be some bullshit to trip off on. And then by the
Hmm.
time I went to work, got back home, I was dreading getting back home at a certain point
Hmm.
because I knew something was going to pop off. So yeah, after doing some studying and learning about like narcissism and psychopaths and all this shit, right? I really, really had to retreat within and just start on the healing journey, you know.
Yeah.
And it took a while to alleviate that pressure in my forehead because yeah, like I said, long story short, I at this point I don't consider myself religious. Um, Definitely very spiritual.
Hmm.
I'd say kind of like Christian adjacent. Maybe if I
Hmm.
had to take a label, maybe like a Christian mystic. But I don't. The reason I don't take these labels and I don't join these groups is because I have a different way of seeing things.
Yeah.
Like for example, when it comes to the Bible, like a lot of Christians will immediately label me a heretic because I am an advocate for the notion of like astrotheology, right?
Hmm.
Now, what a lot of Christians will assume is that my belief is that it's all metaphor and it's all just, uh, basically uh, astrotheology, as opposed to the stars have being a reflection of what goes on the earth. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
as above, so below.
Yeah.
So two things can be true at the same time. In other words, like for example, you've got the whole story of like, oh, meeting the man by the well. Now that could have happened literally, but it also does have a connection to Aquarius and for
Hmm.
everything it sees and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the same thing about, Mary being a virgin, and it just so happened that that time was during Virgo, like Virgo
Right.
season or some shit, right?
Right.
So
Hmm.
astrotheology is something that always like strikes my interest, and we got a guy who his name is Micah Dank, super well
Mhm.
knowledged about all that astrotheological stuff. And you're gonna get some people that get all up in arms and they'll say, well, it's clearly just a story of the stars. So Christianity isn't real. Or then you'll hear the other side where it's like, well, that's just stories that people made up about the stars just by
Mhm.
trying to connect the dots. It's like both could be true.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like just as you said, the as above, so below. Like it could just be literally like written and the stars and in the book.
Right.
I mean, especially if you believe that the Christian God is all powerful and all knowing, and like literally it even says like you should be looking to the stars because the stars will tell the time and
Yeah.
the
Hmm.
and stuff like that. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, I definitely get down with the astrotheology and stuff like that, though. I think that it definitely it's interesting how they tell that same story, though. You know,
Mhm.
and what came first, the chicken or the egg? Obviously, the stars have been there probably longer than a book was ever written, but
Right.
who put the meaning to the stars first? Was it
Hmm.
the meaning to the stars first, or the people that were writing? You know what I mean? It's like who
Yeah.
cares? Who cares what came first, chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
And so yeah, it is pretty wild though. Like I do love getting into that kind of stuff. So that's pretty much where you're at right now. You're kind of just like into the kind of like a Christian light or like.
Yeah. I guess you could say that. I mean, I don't I don't like dogma, because like I can see where it's so easy for people to fall into the traps of dogma and like they take one thing with one context and they don't consider that there's other context.
Hmm.
It's and but the thing is, to me, all that doesn't matter. Like it's almost like the flat Earth thing, flat Earth, round Earth, really doesn't affect me. either way is cool to me. I don't care. Um, but when it comes to spirituality and just like generally, I find the basic core principles of Christianity, a good thing to live by.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't care. I don't care about, whether or not this is a literal thing or this is a metaphorical thing. The core tenets of just trying to be a good person and treating others the way you want to be treated. And, like sometimes you got to give somebody the shirt off your back.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Oh
I
yeah.
think it's just just a massive story, a massive I don't know, our existence itself is just so much bigger, and even religious people will say that God is something that you'll never fully understand. And so why is it that someone else knows it better than me? And I feel like we should all have our own individual experience with that.
Mm-hmm.
Two of my coworkers, they both believe in a similar thing, but yet they agree on it, and they were sitting there kind of not arguing, but just like going back and forth. And it's like, you guys like both love Jesus, but they don't agree, and so
Mm-hmm.
it's like, that's where it gets me. I'm like, I just want to experience this whole thing the only way that I can, and just like you said, do my best and treat people right. And I don't know, I don't feel like there's anything wrong with that.
Dude, I actually was doing a little bit of research as far as like esoteric mysticism within Christianity and Judaism and stuff like that.
Yep.
And they teach this kind of stuff within the Kabbalah and those kind of like mystical Jewish sectors. And there's actually a word that it's called Pardes, Pardes. And so if you're ever so there's people that look at the Bible for its literal translation. Some people will say, "Oh, well no, it's just a comparison. It's just a story. You don't take it literal." And then there's like these so basically the people that are what are they called? Rabbis and stuff that teach the Torah and stuff like that. They'll say, well, there's 4 different ways of interpreting the Bible. And the first one is called Peshat, which is Peshat. And it's that's where you take the Bible literally, or the surface meaning of the text. Okay. Then you have the next one, which is called Remez, which means the hinted or allegorical meaning.
Yep.
Most people only go those 2, right?
Okay.
Then you have the third one, which is called Derash, Derash, which is the homiletic or the comparative meaning, often derived from midrash or rabbinic interpretation. So how the rabbis would interpret it. Okay. And then you have my favorite one, which is Sod, S-O-D, which is the secret or mystical esoteric meaning that you can derive from it. So literally every sentence in the Bible can be interpreted one of these 4 ways, or all 4 ways, really. There is no right way, which I find, very interesting, because it says, so together, Pardes, which means orchard or paradise in Hebrew, symbolizes the lush, multi-layered depth of Scripture, suggesting that true wisdom comes from exploring all 4 layers, not just the literal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like the way that they used to write, dude. They were just majestic in the way that they would write things. They knew that there's going to be some people that look at it literal, and they're gonna literally believe that Jonah went into the mouth of a whale and got spat out on some fucking island or something like that. And then there's going to be people that literally believe that all the people of the world decided to build this Tower of Babel to be able to reach God in heaven. It's like, I don't think you're supposed to take that literally, because
but still, look at it this way: for them, it works, right?
Right.
And so that's the meat of it. So as an individual, you're going to look at it literal, let's say, but for you, that's perfect. That makes your life so whole, and you feel good about it, But then other people, like yourself, might look at it more esoterically, and I feel esoterically, or there's so much more to gain from it. It's definitely very situational, kind of like the tarot card. You pull a card, and depending on what you're going through in that moment, you're going to get something totally different. Even if we pulled the same card a month ago, we didn't get the same result, And so in this case, depending on what you're going through or how you're experiencing this life, if literal is the best way, then You know, and that's why it's so beautiful, I think.
Well,
In any culture, any religion, it all works as long as you believe in that way.
of
You
course.
know?
Well, and the thing is too is that it's all your mind interpreting it anyway. So whether it happened literally or not. So it's like the same thing as this is your mind on drugs. No. It's like your mind, you know, what happens in your mind, in your subconscious mind, your conscious mind whenever you're sitting down, you're eating a bowl of popcorn, you're watching a scary movie, right? Literally, they'll monitor your brain and they'll say your mind doesn't know the difference between this being a movie or being reality, and this is why people get the shit scared out of them. You know, whenever you're watching The Exorcist or fucking Pet Cemetery or something like that, and then you start to notice that there's little dark shadows that are creeping across your kitchen floor. It's like, well, that's because your mind is now synced up to the energy of whatever it is that you're experiencing, and it doesn't know the difference between reality or not. And in the same aspect, it's kind of like people who are trying to quit smoking. Right? Like if you keep on saying in your mind, I'm going to quit smoking, I'm going to quit smoking, I'm going to quit smoking. Well, all your fucking brain hears is smoking, 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 right? It doesn't know yes or no. It just knows the thing.
Smoking, right.
And so whether you take these things literally, esoterically, subjectively, whatever, like it's almost like it doesn't even matter.
Dude, yeah, and it's funny because I just thought of this movie quote. It was either today or yesterday, and I was thinking of the movie The Matrix because we just got a new cat. We named him Neo. He's an all-black cat. He's fucking awesome. But
can he bend
there's
spoons?
Yeah, not yet. We're training him though. We're working on it.
Nice.
Him and I both, you know. But there's a part in that movie, you know, where they're in the simulation part where it's just like that dojo, right? And he gets hit in the face, and he's got like a little bit of blood that comes out, and he's like, "Is this real?" And Morpheus says, "Your mind makes it real." You know? And that's just like what you were just saying. Like your mind is making this, whatever it is that you are believing in, or magic, or Jesus, or whatever, not to put those two together. But yeah, your mind makes it real. And all this thing, for all we know, is just one big mind that we are existing in, believing that we're separate.
Well, and if you look at it like this, your energy is essentially the generator and your mind is the projector. Just look at it like that, right? So whatever your energy is attaching to, it will then start to go through the projection of your mind, which ultimately is like the cones of your eyes, and that's how you're starting to see all these kind of things, because all is mental. Like everything is mind, and this is something that a lot of people have a hard time getting around. They look at this reality as if it's like so real and so physical. It's like, I mean, look into fucking quantum physics, bro. Nothing is physical. Nothing.
Yep.
Like it's not woo woo to say that. Like it seems physical, but literally our brain, our mind is the governor. Like it's like, you know, whenever you're going into a Corvette, you got a governor on that thing, you're not getting above 107. You know what I mean?
Right.
You take that fucking governor off, you're speed racer.
That's it, dude. That's it. And your mind is actively keeping you in this thing that it could best actuate, you know, what you're seeing and what you're experiencing. And so if you are just believing in one thing, I was telling you about this before, how if you see a spider crawl across your desk, right? And then moments later, you feel the tag on the back of your shirt tickle the back of your neck. In your mind, it's absolutely that spider you just saw. You know what I'm saying? Even though it wasn't. But in your mind, for that second, you absolutely believe that spider crawled up on you already.
Oh,
you know?
dude.
And so it's just where your mind is.
Right, right. And you know, it's funny too because it's the summertime now, and so my son loves I live in an apartment complex and they got a pool here, so we like to go every day whenever I have them. And so we go out to the pool and there's always people that are like, you know, leaving melted ice cream cones or some kind of shit over there, and it causes like a lot of ants to go over there sometimes. And because people are filthy and don't know how to fucking pick up after themselves. But anyway, so we were over there yesterday and we're swimming in the pool. So obviously we're all wet. We get out of the pool to go get a sip of water, or maybe I went to go check my phone or something like that. And I noticed that there's all these like little ants and stuff. And so I'm like, oh God, I hate insects. And I mean, except for the mantis being shout out. But but yeah, and so they started like crawling all over my feet. I'm like, all right, let me go jump in the pool. Let me get, wash all these things off. And whenever I get out and I'm getting, we're getting ready to go back home to dry off and everything, I feel like there's ants all over me still, but it's really just the drips of water that are coming down my leg. And so it's like your mind will start, I mean, you can call it a hallucination, but in reality essentially is the hallucination, which is what we kind of discovered with the whole DMT show the other day, is that, whenever you only have 5 to 10% of the information in front of you and you're calling that real, that's not reality. That is a hallucination, right?
What you got. That's all you got right now.
That's it. So,
and your brain is always trying to protect you, so it's like, hey, it might be ants. It might be ants. You might want to check, Right. And then, yeah, I mean, then you start thinking about it and it like almost manifests itself. Yeah. I'm starting to itch a little bit just because you were talking about it. It's weird. Real time.
Yeah, dude. So yeah, Dallas, just out of curiosity, have you had any other kind of Medusa synchronicities or Naga synchronicities or anything like that ever since then?
No, thankfully not. Thankfully. But if you want to see something cool, I got something.
Of course.
Okay. So on the road to recovery, I was getting back into it and just healing from all the mental stuff that like gaslighting is a hell of a drug. I'm telling you, it really messes you up. But anyway, so as I'm getting better, I'm with a friend of mine. I'm at work and we are heading to a park to build a flower bed. So on the way there, as we're talking, like I'm feeling great, everything is just working out. Life is building back up again. And we're talking, and for some reason we start talking about Pokemon Go because that was around the time that came out and, people were always walking around, the parks with it. And so we talked about that. Then we talk about the moon. And like there was some kind of weird thing going on at the time, probably on like YouTube or something that we were discussing. And then we get to the park, we get to the flower bed, and we get down, and lo and behold, there is this little clefable stone that was sitting right on the flower bed as we get to it. Now, mind you, this is like, clefable evolves from the moonstone. It's from the moon. And we were just talking about Pokemon and the moon and all that.
That's cool.
And this sort of stuff happens to me all the time, dude. All the time.
I love it.
Did you feel that it was starting to sing to you and hypnotize you?
No, thankfully not.
Yeah, dude.
That's awesome, dude.
That is crazy. That's a lot like my my finding of the Lake Havasu hat in Baton Rouge, right?
That was a trip, dude.
It's crazy.
That doesn't even seem real. Like I remember you telling me the story, but it just doesn't even seem like something that could happen.
Right. So Dallas, just to fill you in on that, dude. So I was disc golfing one time in Baton Rouge. I used to live in Louisiana. And so I used to go disc golfing like every day. I was addicted to it. And because I would try and get a little bit better to maybe join a tournament and start making some money off of it or win some kind of tournament prize, whatever it was. It was never going to be like something that would pay my bills for the rest of my life or anything like that, but just for fun, really. And so we would go out there every day. Well, I had a bad throw one time and it like kind of went off into the woods. It was like, and it was supposed to be more of a, like a, they call it like a mid-range putt. And so it was like, I don't know, 30 or 40 foot kind of putt. So kind of long. But I guess the wind took it, or maybe my wrist slipped or something like that, went off into the woods. So I went to go find my disc and I step onto this fucking hornet nest and all these tiny little hornets just start attacking me out of nowhere. And I'm flailing and I'm trying to, swing them away and stuff like that. And they're just following me everywhere. So after a while, I take my hat off. I was wearing like a Nike hat or a Steelers hat or something like that. And I went to go like swat them away with my hat to try and get them out of here, right? Well, after a while, I was like, fuck this. And I just threw my hat and I was like, I'm getting out of here. And it was just like a defense mechanism kind of thing, right? And so I left my hat there. Well, the next day I went to go back because I was like, I got to go get my hat. Plus, I was disc golfing every day. So, I was naturally going to go back and get it anyway. And I knew that nobody would take it because this disc was so far off in the woods, it's off the beaten path. It was like in a bunch of brush and, you're not going to naturally walk through there. So I felt good about knowing that I can go back and get it. So the next day I go back and I'm playing disc golf and I go back to that same hole where I lost my hat and I went to go back and find it. And so I'm digging through the leaves and the foliage and all that kind of stuff. And lo and behold, I find a hat. And it's not my hat. My hat was black. But I find this hat and it's like blue and white. And I was like, just out of curiosity, I'm always interested in like, whatever you stumble across, it's kind of like a synchronicity kind of thing. So who knows? You never know, right? And I pick up this fucking hat and it says Lake Havasu City, Arizona with the London Bridge on it. Well, that's where I was born, bro. Like it's literally where I was born. So my hat that I had the other day, I never found that hat. It's like this hat replaced that hat. And of all places in the entire country to find a Lake Havasu City hat, dude, 95% of people have never even heard of Lake Havasu City. Even in Arizona, people aren't really too aware.
Such a small city, yeah.
Yeah, it's like 10 square miles. It's not a big. It's literally a paradise in the middle of the fucking desert, bro.
An oasis, if you will.
Yeah,
essentially an oasis, right? Like even the lake was dug out by this guy McCulloch, and he wanted to like build a little town, and so then he ended up buying the London Bridge from England and brought it over there as an attraction to pull in tourists and stuff like that. And so they actually have like a lot of Girls Gone Wild, and like if you ever seen Girls Gone Wild, or maybe you're flipping through the channels and you accidentally saw it,
then 2 a.m.
Right, then there's a good chance that it was in Lake Havasu. So whenever I found that, I was like, bro, was this like a fucking dimensional jump that just happened or what? Because of all people to find that hat, I guarantee you, I'm the only person in that entire state that was born in Lake Havasu City.
The chances that you went there and found a hat, let alone a hat with Lake Havasu City on it, you could have went back and your hat just wasn't there and be like, fuck, someone found it. Like the chances of that were way higher than you going and finding a different hat. That's just so strange.
It made no damn sense. So I don't know. I still to this day don't really know what to do about that. Some people say that it's like a quantum jump of sorts or something like that. Maybe that's what's going on. Or
many worlds.
Many worlds interpretation kind of thing. Could be, dude. But also, dude, this reality is a fucking dream anyway. So, you know what I mean? Like sometimes it's a nightmare.
You're making it up as you go anyways. So
Right. So I don't know. I just thought that was really strange. And I still have it actually. I mean, I'm not going to wear it. It's more of like a relic that I keep around.
Relic.
Wow, that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, dude. So weird shit like that be happening. You finding Clefable, that is strange how that just worked out that way.
Even the name Clefable, it feels like a storybook. It was just such a weird thing when we both looked at each other and we were like, there is no way this just happened. That sort of thing. And anyway, when you're talking about your hat, that kind of reminded me of a TikTok that I saw a few years ago where this girl was talking about she lost her mom's TV remote, right? And I think she found it in the couch cushions or something, but it was gone for like a day or so. It was a weird thing. She finds it, and then the next day she finds another one that was identical, and there was something up with the remote that was like a crack in it or something like that. So it's like the damn thing replicated itself inside her couch. I mean, I don't know what veracity there is to lend to that, but I don't doubt stuff like that because yeah,
dude, that's some real stuff, and I'm happy that people are becoming more aware of just the crazy synchronicities in a way. And also, dude, have you been seeing like this has been blowing my mind here lately, and I really want to do a show on it here really soon. The people who are doing telekinesis.
I have not seen this.
So all over TikTok, it's maybe my algorithm is just tuned to this fucking frequency, but all over TikTok, I'm seeing people who are taking like an empty Coke can or energy drink can or something like that, right? And they'll lay it down on its side so it's parallel to the table, and they'll take their hands and move it literally with the energy of their hands. Like it's like the chi, right? And maybe at first you're like, you know what, they got a fan on, or it's an edited video.
Yeah,
But then you start seeing literally hundreds of different people that are doing this, and it's not always with a Coke can. Sometimes it'll be like they'll I don't know, some kind of pencil is standing straight up, and then they put a sheet of tinfoil on the top, right?
And it'll spin, right?
And it'll start spinning depending on the motion of their hands, as if they're controlling it, right? And that's how you would, like, if you're, you know, telekinetic in training, you would want to do it with something light like that. And
see, with the tinfoil, the just for me, I always think like, okay, it's the heat radiating off of your hand that's making the air temperature move the thing, you know, like for some reason that's why I always go with that. And I don't want to, but of course you're always going to try to talk it away, you know, and say, well, there's something going on. It's not something magical. Well, that being said, I've never been able to move anything with my mind. Not yet anyway.
Well, I think that I think that a lot of that shit is really going on. I'm actually trying to see if I can find, like, because I've been watching this shit all the time, dude. Like,
Your
I'm
algorithm is like a fever dream, dude. It's just all over the place.
Honestly, yeah. Every time I get the chance, I just like them all because I'm like, keep feeding me more of this.
That actually isn't really a new phenomenon. I want to say around 2012, 2013 on YouTube, you would find hundreds of these videos, because there was this guy that had a channel that was dedicated toward teaching this, and you'd see his students. He'd have like these compilation videos of his students doing it, and they'd put like a piece of paper under a jar and just sit there and like levitate the piece of paper up and down. Right. And that was going back as far as then. So I mean, I can imagine what some people are able to do now.
Oh yeah, dude.
Oh, dude, it is freaking insane. Let me actually, I want to share the screen just to get a little taste right quick, dude, because this shit is nuts. Look at this.
So you want to learn telekinesis, also known as Kai Chi, but you don't know where to start? Save this video, because this is the beginning of a weekly series with 7 exercises. Day 1, the mindset for Kai Chi. When performing Kai Chi, there is a deep connection between the mind and the object being moved. The sensation of this connection is one of focus and intense concentration, as if the object is an extension of the mind itself. As the energy is channeled through the mind, a sensation flows through the body, similar to the current running through a wire. As the Kai Chi builds, the mind must remain focused and centered. There is a sense of inner stillness, as the mind becomes fully absorbed in the task at hand. Day 2, steps for Kai Chi, preparation. Understand that preparation is vital.
Okay, so we don't have to watch the whole thing. I'm just like so mesmerized by these people who are able to do this. Like, here's another one. Check this one. This woman right here is freaking awesome. I watch her all the time. Check this one out, dude.
Okay, this is for all of the people who don't read captions. You take a box. Take a needle, poke it into the box. You have your needle. You take a piece of paper and you fold it. A square piece of paper, fold it in half, fold it in half to create a peak. Because the top of the needle is going to, the peak is going to rest on top of the needle, okay? This is beginner. You're going to begin with just a piece of paper, and then you're going to gradually move.
Watch this shit, dude. This is crazy.
This is just a beginner class, okay? Now, I'm going to put a mask on because I don't want to breathe on the paper. I don't want the paper being influenced by my breath. So you can imagine that there's energy coming out of your fingertips, like laser beams coming out of your fingertips, right? If you cannot see that in your mind's eye, just say it or feel it. You can also imagine that the piece of paper is inside of a spinning ball of light. If you cannot see it, you can can say it, command it from your mind, or you can feel it. And you may need to sit here for about 40 minutes to get 1 minute of movement. You've got to be patient and you've got to keep practicing. You can also imagine that you're actually pushing.
All right, we're just going to skip a little bit forward to her. She's just describing it, but look at this shit, dude.
So I'm not going to show you the bits where I just sit here and nothing happens. I'm just going to edit it so that you can only see the movement.
Right? Like, how is that moving? And she's guiding it.
Yeah, man. It's not an uncommon thing.
Within Kai Chi, it's called.
I was never able to do it myself.
Well,
She said it could take like 40 minutes
and I
of
need to pick
focusing
that
on it.
Back up.
Right. So she was saying that it, like, you know, it takes patience and stuff like that. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like it would probably be pretty difficult to sit there for 40 minutes, like thinking that like, oh, okay, I'm stupid. This is crazy. Like, it's not going to work or whatever. Like, so most people probably would give up. But if you continue on, like she was saying, and dude, like I'm telling you, there are literally thousands of testimonies, people catching it on video, and it's the wildest shit. Like literally, it's almost like your hand becomes some sort of magnet.
And your intention for that thing to move, you know, that has to have a play in it, dude. Like your own consciousness and just putting it out there that you want that thing to move in such a way, right? Like,
right. It seems like magic, you know,
Yeah.
but I think that all of that is ever present within us already, right? Like we know that we're these energetic beings, like in this flesh suit is nothing more than just, you know, a temporary vessel that we're maneuvering in throughout this reality. But at the core, we are that energetic being. So if you look at yourself as more of the energetic being and less of the human, then that exercise probably becomes a lot easier, right?
Yeah, dude. That's a trip, man. And not only that, not even just knowing that you are the energetic being, you know, that's able to do these types of things, but I would go further, man. Like this whole reality, it just isn't what you thought anyways. And so, you know, you've talked about the veil coming down and you showed us that video yesterday, I think it was, dude. And the veil comes down and this reality is just not at all what you thought it was. It's totally different. And so this is just what we're seeing right now is just kind of our brain making it up almost. I mean, it's there, but it's, you know what I'm saying? Like, dude, I feel like it's possible. I just haven't been able to do it, man. I'm so jealous of people that can do that kind of thing.
Well, I don't even think that it's something that we should be jealous of.
I tried.
It's like, it's more of like a, you know, what happens whenever we just apply it? You know what I mean? Like
I imagine if I figure out how to do it, I'll be making videos for everybody. Look, it's really not that hard. You just gotta, you know what I mean? Imagine laser beams are coming out of your fingers or some shit.
Right. And to that same regard, you probably felt the same way about tarot for a while. And then you started pulling very synchronistic cards for every episode, right? So what's that?
Yep. Yeah.
And
it's the same thing. It's all the same thing.
Right.
Yeah, man.
But speaking of, what is that card today, Sean?
I actually got two for you today, my good sir.
Oh, shit. All right.
Yeah, I don't know, it just felt right, dude. So the first one, believe it or not, is the Lover's card.
Oh.
Yeah. Didn't see that coming, but I'm sure it's going where it needs to.
Well, I can't say that I'm super surprised because...
But the imagery is very interesting. I'll say that.
Yeah, buddy. So the lovers stand together in harmony, a balance of masculine and feminine with nothing to hide. Every choice they make is in alignment with love. The Lover's card signifies an opportunity to connect in relationships that support your happiest, healthiest, best self. The imagery shows a man and a woman standing naked in a garden between the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. The snake... Whoa, there's a snake in here.
Yeah, of course.
The snake represents the temptation to indulge in earthly pleasures, while the angel encourages the couple to choose divine love over succumbing to instant gratification. Desire for pleasure is balanced by vulnerability and trust, since both exist within a harmonious relationship. And the spiritual message says, this card serves as a reminder to choose divine love over instant gratification, and that balancing masculine and feminine energies within yourself will attract the right relationship to you.
And look at the entity or whatever that is on the cloud in the that whatever that is, it's got angel wings and its hair or whatever it is looks super Medusa like. I don't know if you can see that.
Wow. Yeah, you have the angel
Wow.
in there along with the snake, and you were talking
Yeah.
about your relationships.
Holy
That's
shit.
Wow.
that's kind of
That's
crazy.
dude. That is crazy.
And the second card is the Three of Cups.
Oh, drinking out of cups. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh shit. All right. So the Three of Cups. Oh, this is a good one. Three of Cups. Rejoice and celebrate with the people you care about and allow your connection to lift or your connections to lift your spirits. A card evoking joyous expansiveness. The Three of Cups depicts three maidens dancing together in a garden.
Holy shit.
What?
What?
We're just talking about the Gorgons and the three, right?
Yup.
Ah! So it shows three maidens dancing together in a garden, their cups raised in a toast. Drawing this card means you are celebrating friendship, community, and all of life's communal pleasures. The lush, ripe vegetation signifies enjoying life in the present moment, while the three maidens represent connection, fertility, and creativity. That's literally what the Gorgons were representing. The fertility, right?
Holy.
That gave me chills,
Wow.
Holy shit. That's crazy.
dude. Oh shit.
The spiritual message behind it says you are craving time with your family, or with your soul family, rather. Prioritize connecting with a community that supports you and lifts your spirits. Celebrating with good friends or family is what you need most right now.
Ew.
Wow.
And that being said,
Word to
welcome
that.
to Meta Mysteries.
Welcome to
that.
fucking Meta Mysteries. Jesus. Both
Love it.
cards hitting on that. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
I was looking at the
Wow.
first one, man. And I was looking at that entity, whatever. I don't know what that is, what you would call that. But I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. You know, not even noticing the serpent climbing up the tree, dude. What a trip.
Oh my God. And people are like, oh, telekinesis ain't real. You know what I mean? It's like, what? Look at this. Look at
What is
this.
going on here?
Wow.
Oh
We've
my
never
God.
had two cards that are so symbolic of the story like that. Because most of the time we don't even draw two cards.
No,
You know?
dude, that just gave me chills.
Oh.
All right. I'm gonna start moving some shit with my mind tonight.
Oh my God. That was nuts.
Fucking awesome, dude.
Holy shit.
That's why we do this. You know,
That is
that's
why.
why we do it.
The magic is in
Word.
every episode, baby. Well, Dallas, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us tonight, dude. This was quite the story, quite the journey we went on, from learning about Medusa and the Gorgons and your wild story about from when you're a child and then you're an adult, you're experiencing the same kind of thing. I'm happy that that energy is not so much attached to you anymore. Yes, just out of curiosity, before we wrap this up, did you ever like sage your house like after they left?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. In fact, my sister came over with like a 3-pack, and she's like, "We're doing this now."
Damn.
3-pack, huh? It was serious.
Well, you got to
Oh, yeah.
get rid of the three maidens, you know?
Wow, I didn't even think of that. Crazy.
Wild, dude. Well,
Good
look,
shit.
if anybody wants to be able to reach out to you, maybe they have a story that's quite similar, or maybe they want to be able to reach out to you to, maybe they're going through that same kind of thing. Where would they find you, sir?
Actually, I would love that, because the compulsion that I feel to share this story is because I feel like somebody needs to hear it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm Dallas Spitfire on TikTok and X. And that's about it. I will be starting a podcast pretty soon. I'm
Very
sorry if I came across as like nervous and everything, because this is like my first time. So anyway, yeah, I want to start a podcast called Good Morning Babylon, and that'll be a fun thing. But that's
Nice.
cooking right now. So
Hey,
yeah,
don't let
that's
it cook
about it.
too long.
no,
All right?
no.
Yeah, just let it marinate a little bit. That's all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, dude, I think you definitely should. Having a podcast, dude, it is like, first of all, it's awesome to be able to connect with like-minded people who are tuning into the show and reaching out, like people like yourself and stuff like that, just to be able to have these sorts of connections that you probably wouldn't, you know, like I live in Texas. Sean lives in Arizona. You're in Oklahoma. The chances that we would ever cross paths are slim. But because of our connection, you know, our you can call it a spiritual connection or just our social connection, you know, within crossing our own paths with our own stories and stuff like that, like it's, you know, we get the chance to be able to connect and share these kind of stories. So I tell everybody, dude, start a podcast. And who gives a shit if you got 10 listeners or 50 listeners or you only put out one show every couple of weeks or one show a week or something like that. Just get going, because the connections that you make and the crazy synchronicities that you see over time, like it only helps you. And also, dude, it's therapeutic, bro. Like it's therapeutic not only having these conversations, but doing the research to keep your mind on something that you're actually interested in learning. You know, like it's awesome whenever you do the research on a show and then you bring it to reality. Like that is, it's magic, really, is what it is.
It's an episode that didn't exist before, but here we are.
Right,
you know?
right.
And that's thanks to you, Dallas, for joining us and sharing your story, man. I know that you know, some of these experiences are hard or dark, you know, and I'm glad that you were able to share that with us, man, because the one needed to hear it.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, look, we are going to be getting into the meditation part of this story. So
we're not going to be doing a Medusa meditation, by the way. Not even. Don't even.
I don't even know. I don't know what kind of meditation we're going to be getting into.
You're like, I was actually kind of thinking we would.
Yeah. All we hear is just
yeah,
like the whole time. No, we're not going to be doing that, but I'm sure we're going to be getting into something synchronous with this episode. But yeah, if you want to be able to tune in and listen to the meditation, the only way that you can do that is by going to patreon.com/metamysteries. That's the best way to be able to support us. The shows get over there a couple of days in advance. You'll be able to slide into our DMs. Our Instagram and all of our social medias are pretty bogged down. We get a lot of messages every day. It would be basically a full-time job if we just sat there, you know, replying to every single message. So if you want to get in direct contact with us, Patreon would be the best place to be able to do that. And yeah, you'd be able to share your story. Also, the best thing about Patreon is that it is completely commercial free. So if you hate all those damn commercials, or you don't want to wait for the show to come onto YouTube or onto the Cult of Conspiracy podcast, which is where we're posting all of our shows at now, then Patreon would be the best place. So we appreciate all of the one who have already done so. And also, if you could, you know, I know that we're over at the Cult of Conspiracy podcast right now, but if you could leave a review for your boys over at the Meta Mysteries, that would help us out a lot. And maybe, you know, go and share this with your witchy aunt or your
everyone's got a witchy aunt,
your fucking wizard grandpa or whatever, right? Like whoever it is. And yeah, I get it. Like not all of these episodes are for everybody, but we're trying to discover it all. So maybe you're into Buddhism or Taoism or witchcraft or Judaism or mysticism. We cover it all. And that's what we're trying to just become that coexist bumper sticker up in this motherfucker. So if you vibe with that, then yeah, share it with all your friends and your family, whoever you think is going to vibe with it. And we appreciate everybody who has already done that. But yeah, like I said, we're going to be getting into the meditation right now. That is only available over at Patreon. So if you want to be able to join us for that, you'll be able to meditate with us in real time, because time ain't nothing but a fucking illusion anyway. Am I right?
Oh, shit.
So, yeah, come check it out. We're about to get into the meditation. So with that being said, if Dallas came here and he taught you anything, it's that you don't know what you don't know. So don't just get weird.
Stay weird.
Open doors inside your mind. Leave the ordinary far behind. Colors swirl and stars align. In the meta mysteries you'll find.
All right, Sean. What'd you think about that one? That was a good one, huh?
I loved it, dude. There was something about it when the frequencies were like bouncing off of each other, and when it would get very intense. There was something about that, and I don't know what it is, but it felt familiar.
Yeah.
You know, like there was something about it that I feel like I've experienced before. And I don't know what it is, but I was digging it, dude. I loved it.
Yeah, a bath, definitely. You get why they call it a sound bath, though, right?
Very much immersed in that, man. Yeah, it was cool. I feel like I could have listened to that for a minute, you know, and just see what happens. There was a moment where I felt like there was like not flashing, but like a bit of a flicker of some sort. And I don't know if that was just my eyes adjusting, you know, but it definitely felt like, I don't know, almost psychedelic, you know, like
Right.
something was happening. And then
Yeah,
I
it's
started to think about the Gateway tapes, and I almost could like in my mind, I feel like I could hear what's his name's voice, you
Robert
know, and
Monroe.
Monroe, and I was trying to do some of the techniques that he talks about, and I had an experience, man, not too long ago where I felt like I was seeing something like start to manifest, and my eyes were closed, and I don't know, it felt like I was seeing something that really exists, you know, and I know I've described this before, man, but it's such a weird thing when it happens because I almost can't make out what it is, but in my mind I know it's something real. Like it's definitely not a feeling of, oh, I'm starting to have a dream, or my mind is just kind of doing what it does when there's absence of stimuli. You know, it really felt like I'm peering into something. And I don't know. I hope I can get better at that because I feel like if I can slightly do it, then I'm sure I can hone in on that and really kind of master it and figure out what's going on with that. What am I seeing?
yeah, it's almost like the curtain is starting to raise.
That's what it feels like, dude, because I've never had those experiences before. Like never. I'm either awake or I'm asleep. There's not really too much in between, you know, but to have some sort of experience like that when I'm still very much conscious, that's only been a thing for like this last year.
And
You know what I'm saying? In this stage of my life, like you would think something like this would have happened before, like many times.
you feel like you're going into the in betwixt, huh?
Yeah, that's where I'm at, dude. That's where I've been. I like it there.
That's where you got to
It's
go, though.
interesting.
Yeah, that's where you
Yeah.
got to go. It's like the in between world, you know, because some people get, you know, too wrapped up in the physical reality, but then there's also those people that get too wrapped up in the spiritual reality.
Yep.
And we are both, you know, and
Mhm.
that's the thing is that, you know, we have to still go to work and,
Mhm.
you know, raise our kids and, you know, your typical day to day kind of, you still have to sit down and eat. You still have to go take a shower. You still have to brush your teeth. Like these are
Yep.
all, I mean, they're physical things that you got to do in your daily walk in
Human
life.
things, right?
And so it's best to incorporate them both. You know, don't
Mhm.
go too high, don't go too low. Find some kind of middle ground to where, yeah, maybe you're always thinking about what is the spiritual meaning behind whatever I had just experienced. That's cool too. But like, you know, kind of head in the clouds with the gravity center kind of thing.
That's right.
Because there are definitely people that take it way too far, and then
Take the
next thing you
middle
know, I'm the reincarnation of Jesus. It's like, all
Yeah.
right, calm down a little bit.
You went too far.
Calm down.
Went too far.
Yeah.
Real fast. Yeah, definitely. I think you definitely need to, because of course, like you said, we're gonna look for signs, you know, or when you see something and it definitely is some sort of sign, but don't take it too far. You know, like you said, we're still just living a human life as well, and you know, I don't know, man. I just don't want anybody to get too caught up one way, you know, because you have to have both. You know, the hemisync, if you will.
Yes, yes. That's why that's why we attach so much to the whole hemisync thing because it is a bit of both. You know,
It is. It is, dude.
and how cool is it that you know that you can kind of take some aspects of the spiritual world and merge them into your own reality, just like we were talking about with the telekinesis. You know, that is taking your spiritual self and applying it to something physical. That's
Right.
that's the in betwixt right there.
Right. Or taking your mind, or you know, going into a meditation and letting your mind go somewhere else. You know, and but you're thinking like, oh, okay, maybe I'm making that up, whatever it was that I saw. It's very easy to do that. But at the same time, maybe you actually did see something. Maybe you actually did kind of go somewhere.
Oh, dude,
Because
and
of course your spirit or your energy body or whatever you want to call it is capable of that. Of course.
I think we need an awesome like fantasy guided meditation soon.
Yes. Yes, those are fun, man. Those are fun because now knowing what we know as far as okay, maybe it's not just our minds creating a you know, a landscape and then we're kind of exploring that. Maybe it's not that at all. Maybe it is a little bit more than that. And the next guided meditation, I feel like we can really hone in on that and take advantage of that thought process and go, okay, if this is a real place, you know what I'm saying? And go from there.
Oh, dude,
And so,
your pineal gland is a multi-dimensional receiver, and it connects you to these, call them parallel realities or whatever it is, right? But it's absolutely not just your imagination. Your imagination has to play a part into it, because the imagination is what we have in human form that connects us to the right side of our brain, and the right side of our brain is what is going to allow us to experience these otherworldly, other dimensionally kinds of things. So I get whenever people are like, I feel like I'm just making this up. It's like, I mean, maybe you're making it up to get the ball rolling, or maybe at least that's what your logical mind is telling you, that you're making it up
to make sense of what's really happening.
Right,
There's
because
something really happening, and then your mind has to take that information and compute it and make sense of it.
we're talking about something that isn't logical.
Right.
So, of course, your logical brain is going to tell you that it's not real because it's illogical,
Right.
and logic only applies to like this reality, though. You think about it, if you were to incarnate as an Arcturian, and you're over there in some kind of star system, and gravity doesn't affect you, or you know what I mean, just like the laws of whatever physics they got going on over there, that's a
Right.
different logistical system. So your mind over there, if you're incarnated in that world, well, now your logical mind is not going to be your same logical mind here. So when you're talking about shifting to parallel realities or parallel dimensions or just other higher dimensions or whatever, your logic can't apply there,
Right.
because it's entirely different rules.
Yep.
And so that's why it's important to just, you got to have fun with yourself and bring back that kid-like virtue that all of the religious books talk about. Come with the mind of a child. The childlike mind, it doesn't know logic yet. It doesn't know that it's logical to not put your hand on a hot stove.
Right.
Well, it's how your mind is. Your mind is that same way. There's no rules. There's no boundaries. In the imagination, that's the fantasy world, essentially.
That's it,
just by calling it a fantasy world does not mean to demean it by any means. I think that actually it perfectly embodies what that is, because we only know of these fantastical things in this logical physical realm as
Right.
only being fantasy and not real.
Right.
So
yeah, and these places that you can go to, I kind of wanted to jump back on that just for a second. Like these places that you can envision, while you're in a meditation, in your third eye or your mind's eye. I feel like those places either exist already or they exist now. You know what I mean? Like now they exist.
right.
If they didn't before, once you see it. Right?
Yeah. It's
don't
it's a mind fuck, but
Yep.
also your mind needs to be fucked sometimes.
We like it.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you just got to raw dog the shit out of it until it gets set into place.
Yeah. Dude.
But
it.
anyway, all right. Well, this is a fun fucking show, dude. I really enjoyed
was.
this one.
It was. I enjoyed
so-
all of them, man.
Oh yeah. So the next one will be the Wonder Wiz Day. And
Of course.
so any of you that are listening, whether it be on the podcast or on YouTube or on Patreon, if you're a member on Patreon, you will be able to join us for the Wonder Wiz Day live show. And we don't know what that topic is going to be yet. We'll just go with the flow and see whatever pops up.
It'll present itself, I think. Usually does.
I think it will. So
man.
I guess we'll get out of here, and we'll see you on the flip side.
I guess.
Voices drift on winds untamed. Words like spells that can't be named. Close your eyes.